Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm really hoping you guys had an amazing week. It's been a interesting week for me. Very, very powerful. I've had so much happening internally, a lot of shifts that are leading me to have different conversations and to bring up really valuable insights and wisdom that's starting to show up as a result of my own growth and my own evolution. And so, with that being said, I want to talk today a little bit about how you can get out of your head and start living through your heart. And so, if you've heard the term like heart centered living or heart centered leadership, we're going to talk all about that and how you can start making way more effective decisions for your life that will lead you closer to the reality that you actually want. And so, this is where we're going to start asking you to trust the intuition. Okay, so we're going to back up a little bit. We're going to back up and we're going to talk a little bit about the reality that we're all living in, the collective way of leading our lives. One of the things that's been showing up for me a lot is that I had been listening to the guidance of my mind more than I had been listening to my heart. And I realized that I had been in, I had these beliefs instilled in me growing up that to make a decision, you do it through logic. And that logic is the only reasonable way to make decisions in your life. And, all the answers come through when you sit down and you rationalize. And I remember even just like, big decisions like, should I drop out of school or should I, take this job or move to this place or should I even get into this relationship? I remember I would just sit there and write down like the pros and cons. And I was like, okay, rationally, like what makes sense here, What am I to do, right? And I just remember like operating in that way for so long. And it just kind of fucking sucked. Like to be straight up. The reason it sucked was because it just didn't feel right. And you notice how I use the word feel? Because that's what I was not doing during the process of rationalizing my decisions, right? And I remember like just thinking to myself like this doesn't feel right for me, And I was like, "Oh, but then," and I remember I would just like shut that whisper down or that shut that whisper off and be like, "No. No. I'm not going to listen to how I feel because feeling, right, is not the best way to make a decision. Feeling, right, is not, doesn't hold credit or doesn't hold as much value as making rational, logical choices. and, and I get it, like it's something that's been instilled in so many of us because our society has lost connection to we've lost connection to this deep knowing that we all have. This deep knowing that we are actually more powerful than we give ourselves credit. That we all have inside this beautiful, complex, incredible system that we call our bodies, that we have this innate intelligence that we have been told to shut off. And the reason we've been told to shut off from this deep inner intelligence is because it's easier to control us that way. It's easier to instill fear that way. And I want to make this clear that I'm not here, shutting down logic and saying, fuck logic, just do, live how you want to feel and all that. Because I think that logic serves a purpose. And I do understand that everyone operates differently and that men do tend to biologically be more, logical thinkers in the way that they make decisions and they go about creating their life and leadership as well. So I understand that there is a purpose for that. But what I'm really talking about here is how we have been sold a lie. We have been sold this lie that our inner compass and our inner navigating system does not hold value when it comes to making big life decisions, when it comes to determining whether or not the relationship feels right, whether or not the job feels right, whether or not where you live feels right. And we've been sold this lie, and I've talked about, how it's really there to take us further away from our power. Because could you imagine that all of us understood and gave permission to this inner compass, to our inner intelligence? Can you imagine we all gave permission to that, to be the loud voice, to be the guide in our lives? Could you imagine what that would do to all these higher powers around us in our society, to government, to, these systematic ways? It would fucking deteriorate everything that we have been taught and the society that we have been led to believe is how you go about doing things would crumble. Things would crumble in our environment and around us by those who created it to instill fear in us if we decided to give permission to our inner intelligence, to give permission to our intuition. And they're scared. That's a fact. And they've told us that it's silly, that if you believe in what do you mean that you received a download? What does that even mean? Well, let me break it down to you. Before any of this existed, we actually have ancient wisdom, and the decisions that were made in old ancient cultures and civilizations were all done intuitively. And a lot of it was actually from the women in that space, the divine feminine who carries, she's almost the channel, the bridge between the spiritual realm, or, the higher power, the higher intelligence, and the material realm of where we live now in our society. And in those olden days, that ancient wisdom carried a lot of value and a lot of credit. And then we would look and see these miraculous creations that would be made and healing ourselves, and all these ancient knowledge. And we look at that and go, well, where did that come from? There's no logical way to explain all of that. And yet we see the outcome of it. We see the power of it. We hear these incredible stories of how people have healed themselves, of how, synchronicities have happened that have led people to the big choices that they've made in their lives. And so that's the thing that I feel like we've been disconnected from. And there is a purpose that not necessarily is there to better our reality, right? And so this is a reminder that our intuition is so powerful if we choose to listen. And this is a reminder that the answers you seek outside are actually within if you choose to listen. I remember this really beautiful story that I heard a while ago. And I remember, one of my friends telling me, how she, it's really crazy because like she talks about how she went through her own journey of finding her relationship and how, she would go on these dates and she would meet these guys and everything. And it just didn't work out for her. And she was like, oh, like this is stressful and this is all that. And she decided, that she was going to start using her inner voice to navigate, this all that's happening in her dating space. And she was like, you know what? She's like, I'm going to actually just tune in and see how I feel in the presence of these people. And as a result of like tuning in, her intuition started to guide her to more high quality partners that aligned with what she was looking for. And all of a sudden, she no longer felt like she had to like just go out and meet everybody, because now she had this inner guidance telling her, hey, this is what we're looking for. And the moment she gave power to that inner guidance, she was able to actually attract her person. And I just remember like thinking like, how fucking cool is that? How cool is it that we all have this inner compass that literally gives us the answers to everything that we've ever asked for or about in our reality? We have this beautiful navigating system, this inner GPS that we have been disconnected from because logic? What? Fuck logic in the sense of, and I'm going to say this again, I have nothing against people who operate that way, but fuck logic when we're using it in place of our power. Like when you realize that you are the extension of this universe, that you are a gift, that you are a miracle, and that the intelligence that you see outside of yourself that you can't even fathom when you look up in the stars, when you look up in the sky and see the magnificence, is actually the same intelligence that you have within you. It is the same intelligence that you have within you. And I love how, for those of you that are watching the video of this, I love how the sun just came through right now as soon as I said that. That's pretty fucking cool. See, and that's those little connections, right? You start to just have this inner knowing that you are the universe, and that you're constantly communicating with everything outside of you because you are an extension of that power and that intelligence. And it is within you, and the answers you seek are within you. And so that's what I wanted this episode to be about. And, I truly hope that you can tune in. Tune in this week. Sit in silence. Don't be distracted by, your phone and Netflix and people and all the things. Take some time to sit with yourself in complete silence. Free yourself, liberate yourself from distraction. Breathe. And breathing has been a beautiful way for me to come into my body, to come into my inner intelligence, and to allow her to guide. And so sit with yourself in silence and breathe and tune in. And if you have a question, that you need answered in your life, whether it's a decision you need to make, right? Whatever that looks like, ask. Ask. Close your eyes and say, inner guidance, may you guide me to the answer that I am seeking. May you give me what I need to move through this. And just listen. And when you do this enough times, you'll actually start to hear the voice. The voice that has always been there, but we have neglected because it's not rational. Fuck rational. You are way more powerful than what you are limited to believe limited to believe in what your eyes can see in this reality. The material world in which you live in is so limited only to what you can see. Beyond this material world is just a fucking magical realm where everything is possible, where that version of you exists, the one that you want, that ideal version exists, where the success exists, the relationship exists. It already exists. Are you willing to tune in and listen how to bridge that? How to bring it here to this reality? Because I've done it. I've had some answers come through and some miracles show up just by listening to my intuition. That inner intelligence that is the extension of the universe, who is there looking out for me so that I can expand to become my highest self and to live the reality that I desire. I listened, I answered the call, and I said, this is the only way I'm going to go through life from now on, because it is magical. And so tune in and listen. Thank you guys. Speaking of tuning in, thank you so much for tuning into this week's conversation. I hope you found this valuable. I hope that you guys can really learn to trust yourself and see the power within you. Give permission for that inner guidance, that inner intelligence to speak to you. And I hope you guys have the most beautiful, beautiful week, month, year, life. And I'll see you guys next week. Bye.